Welcome everyone to Welcome Canada Startup. We're doing a little flip-flop this week. I'm going to ask the questions and Dave's going to do the answering. Welcome, Dave. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Bill. Thank you so much for stepping up this week.
Always good to make a change, try something new.
Absolutely. That's part of what everything that we're looking to do is experiments, right? And so we've got all these wonderful experiments going on, and it's a great way, especially at our age, to continue to grow and unlearn and to learn and have a great time.
Yeah, definitely. Like Poirot says, keep the gray skulls moving.
Absolutely.
So today, what we want to look at is for small business owners, learning how to be an author. So, an introduction to authorship. So, Dave, I know you've written a couple of books, and your most recent one, Get 2020 Vision. I read it. It was excellent.
Get 2020 Vision.
It was 2020 Vision. Yeah, I'd like to have that, but, it was very good.
Well, a big part of it, I think what you were alluding to before we started was why 2020? And it is the concept to have clarity and to have focus and then to have an action plan. And throughout the whole journey that we have as people who've gone through our teenagers and our 20s, our 30s, our focus tends to shift from these eyes to maybe our heart, and then maybe even our third eye to have clarity. And then once we have clarity, then we can get focus and take action and get to where we're going. Yet to know exactly what's going to happen next week, no one can do that. Yet we can develop a plan. And I really infuse this word of calibration and using the GPS system to be able to use your personal GPS system that you start to develop in dealing with the challenges whenever age you are. The funny thing is that when I came back to Canada, one of the things I noticed that mental health, mental wellness, and mental illness is epidemic right now. And it's almost from the cradle to the grave now. And as I did a lot more research into this whole idea of mental wellness, a couple of key themes came about it. And then when I thought of the career path of an individual, the different types of mental illness that strikes people, I thought it'd be really cool to bring in a analysis and then a way to perhaps share some winning strategies to deal with the ups and downs of the mental challenges that we have these days.
Oh, that's definitely timely.
And so, I'm happy to talk about any specific questions we might have, follow a little bit of a flow with this, and any of our guests that want to reach out and talk about any of the topics that will be discussed today, really happy to express it. I created some notes on this today also because I really wanted to share some of the different types of mental challenges, and whether you're an executive and you're lonely. Executive loneliness is a type of mental challenge right now. Executive loneliness. Whether you go through depression. The funny thing about doing research into depression is that it's just not young people who are depressed. They happen to be right now in most of the health surveys. They've got the highest levels of depression. Yet it's our generation, Bill. It's actually over 60 that is the second highest age group that suffer from depression.
That's crazy.
Many of the young people would be suffering about imposter syndrome. And I don't know if you ever went through imposter syndrome, yet this is something that really hits people in their 25 to 35 in their corporate career. And then we have bullying, and we have corporate PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So those are the chapters that I really delved into in developing the Get 2020 Vision edition, the mental wellness edition.
Excellent. No, those are huge, so applicable right now. So when you were doing this, what would you say would be your top 3 tips on writing a book? And then how could you use it maybe for, what would you say maybe 2 other tips that could be a way to channel your mental health through that?
Well, I like the question because on one hand, write about things you like. In fact, I believe that everybody has at least one book in them. And the challenge is that whenever we start something new, if you've got your expectation that you're supposed to be an expert for before you even start, you're probably not going to get started. So
True.
allow yourself to be lousy at the beginning. And that means journaling. And just allow yourself to start journaling, put together a journal, put together a table of contents. So I'm actually giving 3 or 4 or 5 tips, and allow that book to come and evolve out. And so seriously, if you wanted to give yourself a hard challenge or a good challenge, have an ebook ready in 30 days. Write a page a day.
Yeah.
That's 30 pages. That's an ebook. Guess what? Check off that you've written a book. Now, if you want to do a little bit more robust research, that 30 pages can become 90 pages. And then you've really got yourself a printable book.
Yeah.
If you want to do some more research, you could add some references, maybe do some interviews, and then you've got 150 pages. And then you potentially have the opportunity to wrap in some marketing strategies to make it a bestseller. And I think you might ask me a little bit about that later.
Definitely.
So
yeah.
that is a really a cool strategy, I believe, that start writing, start journaling. If you've got an idea for a book, start talking to some people that might have written books. They'll actually inspire and encourage you, as opposed to your little voice saying, oh, you're not a very good writer. Oh, you can't do this. And the little voice will often suppress you, whereas friends that are there to uplift you are going to encourage you. They're going to perhaps introduce you to an editor or a designer, and they're going to celebrate with you. And that's the type of environment that you and I have been working on since we've been doing these type of presentations and group meetings and trust circles. And so having some people on your team that might have succeeded already in that area, because they're going to want to see you succeed too.
Definitely.
So that would be another little tip. And then number 3 is to really make it fun.
Yes.
Get out of the box, have it fun. 30 days, you could have an ebook. 3 months, you could have your first published copy, and it's such a joy, like receiving it and then feeling it, and then maybe even who you donate or you gift it to, and who you honor in the book. Those are all fun things that I really encourage people to do. The idea is that the first draft isn't the last draft. It might be the second draft, the third draft, the fourth draft, because that's the iterations that can really come about from writing a book, and it's something to celebrate life.
Definitely. One more tip from you, Dave. So when you've been talking, it's focusing on our age. I guess one of the big things that we found looking is that we're afraid to make mistakes and go from there. So what would be one tip you could say on keeping this fun and just letting us understand that, you know what, it's okay to be lousy. It's okay to journal and not put punctuation. Like, what would be a good tip just to have to put that much fun into it that you don't worry about being lousy, that, you know, things will get better as you start doing it.
Well, Bill, I think what you've just said is such a key component. It's allow yourself to learn and have learning cycles. The whole idea when you write a book, that's why you bring in an editor. The editor fixes all that up for you. So you're actually working with a team. You're not supposed to be working on all the punctuation and all the I's dotted, T's crossed. No, get it down on paper. Have a process where you can get feedback and you can rewrite and you can have fun with it. And that's the process of real discovery. I did take an art class once, and the idea was you're supposed to make 100,000 mistakes when you're doing drafting. And so it's not about drawing it perfectly. No, it's you draw it and then you draw it again and you draw it again and you keep sketching it. And a pencil sketch is a culmination of 100,000 mistakes. And so if we would give ourselves that luxury to, and again, this is from Steve Jobs, fail fast, fail frequently, and fail forward. The opportunity to, if you're an author, that you become an authority in an area. See, Bill, if you were to write 30 pages on hockey, or you were to write 30 pages on getting a scholarship to the States, and just allow it to flow. So it's not to be critical of it, it's just to allow that information to get down on paper. Once it's on paper, then you can get it edited, re-edited, and you can maybe interview people. And then by interviewing them, you transcribe it. It can be edited. So that's a great way to create content, is to actually do it. You and I would probably really enjoy doing it with somebody. And so being part of a team. And so you put together your team for the book project, and you're going to have somebody maybe do the cover design. You might do the first Canva design, yet you might also outsource it. So look at it as an opportunity to build your skills.
Yes.
Build your skills in writing, build your skills in design, build your skills in interviewing, build your skills in marketing, and allow that process of creating learning cycles. That's the key, I believe. For me, I love learning cycles. I've encouraged people to use it as a methodology. And I also welcome any feedback on what's been your greatest strategy to deal with the high standards that for some way got maybe infused when you and I were in third grade and we got 97 and our friend got 99. So we always thought we needed to be 100, as opposed to be happy with 6 out of 10. Your first draft, if it's a 4 out of 10, cool, because that gives you a lot of opportunity to improve and to grow and develop.
Yes, definitely.
Great question, Bill. Thanks so much.
So, we've got our ideas here. So what makes an author think? Like what sort of things do you go through when you think about why? Where do you get your why from when it comes to writing? What, like, for example, your 2020 vision. Why did you choose mental wellness? What sort of processes go through your head when it comes to choosing your book?
I believe the why, or the big why, comes from asking yourself if you notice there's a problem. And then if you ask that maybe you can assist in solving the problem. This is a similar type of scenario when you're starting a business, is that you're looking around and you find big problems in the world, big challenges, big difficulties, and you look to provide a solution. So in this book is that when I came back from being away from Canada for decades, I really noticed that, wow, if you watch TV, probably 80% of the advertisements are for drugs or for some type of pharmaceuticals. If you drive down the street, there's so many areas for mental health and mental wellness and suicide hotlines. And so it's just like, wow, it's like things really had changed. And I have a certain amount of experiences as a coach, as a mentor, as building businesses, but also working in corporates. And I noticed that that's a big challenge right now for businesses, is actually teaching people to have more compassion. In fact, I really like the book came about, and it's like, impact your life with compassion, patience, and curiosity. And that became part of my solution for the challenges with mental health.
Yes.
Is that if we could develop processes or questions or opportunities that compassion can be developed and expressed, if patience, really being patient, not always being in a hurry. That's a tricky one for many people, because so many people want everything yesterday. And so then curiosity, sincere curiosity. When you meet somebody who might be having a breakdown, you can look at it as a breakdown and run away and be afraid, or you can be aware that this might be a breakthrough to greater compassion and patience. And so I looked at that as perhaps part of the solution. So I wanted the solution that I've worked on and work on daily as one of the ways that can assist people in the realm of mental wellness. And the idea of mental wellness is that we're going to have challenges in life. Sometimes we will have breakdowns. We might have emotional breakdowns. We might have suicidal thoughts. We might have isolation, fear, depression. We might not know how to handle things. And that's where self-compassion, self-care, and sincere curiosity comes into play also in the whole arena of self-care. And so I really saw it as a challenge externally, yet I also was very aware that I've had the challenge throughout my life to go through a number of these topics and worked with people throughout a number of countries to come up with perhaps some strategies, some approaches, and invitations for people to try on something that might be prescribed with natural remedies instead of
Yes.
purely going into the pharmaceutical remedies.
Hmm.
So does
Yeah,
that
I
answer
like
your
that.
question?
I no, excellent, excellent. I think that one thing that definitely the takeaway from that is getting away from um, wanting things yesterday, like starting to learn about patience, and don't be looking for that instant fix. That with a little bit of patience and a little bit of time and like you said, self compassion, things will start to move. And it goes back to, I like that Bruce Lee statement, be like water. And I think that applies to a lot of what you're talking about there. That
It was actually, it's a quote in my book, and the whole study of breath work and be like water. These are very relevant strategies that you might just say, oh, yeah, yeah, I know that, I know that. Yet there's another great quote from Lao Tzu, which is, to know and not to do is not yet to know. And
yes,
so many people who might be going through challenges, oh, I've tried everything. And so again, that comes down to being precise with your words. You and I did a session on the 4 agreements.
yes,
People are not very precise with their words. I'm inviting them to notice that their words actually create spells. And a lot of mental disorders are partially connected to the spells that people create. What do they say to themselves to get depressed, to get anxiety, to get stressed out? There's a word pattern there. To interrupt that word pattern and to put in some movement, to put in some be still like water, breathe, awareness. Those are part of the remedies that can disrupt the old pattern and start a new process of wellness.
and I think that that whole concept of that new process is actually very important too. And I think part of the process is, like you were just saying, you know, creating that team, that whole team concept, as opposed to thinking you have to go it alone. And you know, like one of the big things that we've talked about is, who do you want on your team? So like for you, who did you ask, or who did you use as references or experts to help you go through everything to be part of your team?
I truly feel blessed about, and it's one of the reasons why I was motivated to get the book done and to actually share some of the people that were on the team, because I worked with some of the top nurses on the planet. One of the ladies, GD, is Florence Nightingale Award winner with the Red Cross. And so she's worked with trauma. She's worked in Iraq. She's worked in Africa. And I asked about mindset, about dealing with trauma and working in very stressful situations, and was able to interview her and get some of her winning tips. The top lady in New Zealand who works in the aged care, Jilly Robinson, and Jilly wrote a 365-page book on protocol for aged homes. And when the government needs to have an authority, she gets up there and she gives them the protocol. Whenever they have challenges, they talk to her about it. And then I also worked in geriatrics and also with people who have worked in the whole hospice arena. So can you imagine every week working with people who pass over?
Yeah,
And so,
that would be really challenging.
you get a fatigue there, you get a mindset there, and you have to have a compassion that I've learned so much from not only interviewing these wonderful ladies, these wonderful health practitioners, that they taught me so much about being able to use professionalism at one level, yet also when the burnout, when the exhaustion becomes part of the life, what were their winning strategies? And so that's what I look to infuse in the book is to have some specific steps that people have used, and then create an invitation that if you find yourself or someone you love in the situation, figure out perhaps a curious way to share the information, yet the secret is that you are able to assist them to make it their idea.
Yes.
And so that's where, again, asking great questions comes in. If you can ask a question in a way that you have compassion and patience, because you're not about telling them the answer. It's like if you ask the question, even if you have a good idea what the answer is, and they come up with it, there seems to be that shift where there's an ownership. And if
Yes.
we can help people have ownership because they are the owner of their ship. If you love them, that's one thing. if they don't love themselves, that ship's going to sink. And so as a caregiver, we're looking to assist them to have the ownership, the accountability, and the responsibility to change the words, to change the diet, to change the physical exercise, to change the way they deal with the situation. And I really do, like, this is the thing that some people will tell me, oh, that's so hard, that's so hard. No, that's a language pattern. It doesn't need to be hard. In fact, some people will tell me it's effortless ease. Use effortless ease as opposed to it's so hard.
Yes.
That might affect somebody right now. Effortless ease versus it's so hard.
Yes.
So great question, Bill. And I hope that I just want to send out some gratitude to the ladies and gentlemen who've assisted me on my journey in coaching, in mentoring, in therapy, as a way to express some of their messages, because it was through those interviews that the confidence to speak to almost anybody in this arena who is truly sincere of exploring solutions. And that's part of the challenge we have right now. We're experiencing a lot of that in Canada, where things are being politicized, where people are blaming. Because if you want to live in a society that there's blame, 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 we are not likely to make much progress. And this comes down to, do you want to live your life below the line in the area of blame, excuses, and doubt? Or do you want to raise your game and play in the arena of ownership, accountability, and responsibility?
Yes.
Whether we like it or not, it's an individual choice.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, it's all part of that team, right? The team's you got to go forward as the team, and you got to take ownership as the team. And
that's such a key component to the next question also.
Definitely. So you got the book out and you got up to bestseller status. So what would be your top tip to achieve that status for somebody as a nice best-selling author?
It's funny, Bill. It's great to be talking to you about this, because I think you really get this, is that, first of all, make it a game. So when you do a book launch, you can have many book launches. And there's a couple of secrets that I'm happy to share. And if anyone wants to reach out and talk to perhaps Bill and I, we could be part of your team, because that is the idea here, is that build a team. So build it as a project, build it as a event. I had a number of events. I invited best-selling authors to be on my event as part of a book launch. I built it around my son's birthday. I had a lot of fun with it. I worked and strategized and invited. And so that would be the tip, is build it up as an experience, as a party, as a series of events. Getting bestseller status these days is not very hard. It requires some planning, some teamwork, some collaboration, and some fun. And I really do believe that I had about 7 different contributors to the book be part of a online book launch. And we had strategy around going after some different topics in Amazon. And I worked with great people in Australia, Tracy, who contributed a lot with the book, designers, Deb, who was helping with some of the editing. They had 3 editors for this book. And there was just, again, a camaraderie, a collaboration, and a celebration, because when we did hit #1 best-selling rate, we celebrated it. And that was a huge gratitude. And it's one of those bucket lists, check it off, and have some fun with some other projects too.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, a good takeaway, and I think that this is something we miss in a lot of things, is rather than being so serious and hard and stressed, make it fun and celebrate the fun and the achievement, celebrate the learning. You know, I think we forget about that. And I think that's a great point that you make there. Figure out, I mean, you still have to strategize, you still have to work, you still have to, you know, get to the grindstone and all that. But there's always a way to figure out to have fun. And when you get there, celebrate it.
I think it's so important to have a plan, yet the beautiful thing is that it doesn't mean that's the only way. It's like even setting our GPS system, which is, again, a chapter in the book, because I look at GPS is not necessarily your global positioning system. I look at GPS as gratitude, purpose and passion, and service. And so if I have that part of my projects or my initiatives, it's fun, because when you got your purpose and your passion and your who are you serving and your gratitude is what you're doing today, that's a pretty cool GPS system.
Definitely,
and that's one
yeah.
of the things that came out of the book, and it's something that I'd love to share with more people, yet it really is something that can be applied today. And it's not theoretical, it's actually practice. And when we do practice, something that you and I probably have rewritten a record from our childhood, we've been trained. Most people still, if you say practice makes, they're going to say perfect.
They're going to say perfect. But we know now it's progress.
Yeah, exactly. So you and I, we're going to continue to share that. Practice makes progress.
Progress.
And so that's, again, part of the strategy you asked earlier. Can people get rid of this idea that they got to be an expert before they start? Infuse that new record. Practice makes progress, and it might assist you.
Definitely. Definitely. So you've got your book, you've got your #1 your bestseller. Okay, now in the next 6 months, who would you like to connect with that you could say, you know what, I'd like to give you this copy of my book? Who would be that person?
Actually, as you said it, it's funny because I've reached out to a few people this past 3 months, other bestsellers here in Canada. And many of them have been very receptive and responsive, and some of them have actually been interviewed over the last a couple of months. It's been great. Yet there is a few that I actually had met before. One is Marianne Williamson. Marianne is a lady who taught and practiced the Course in Miracles. And I had the privilege and honor to meet Marianne when we were in Colorado for an event in Colorado. And it was amazing because I flew from Singapore, and as I arrived, I was saying on my flight that I was looking to manifest the opportunity to interview and meet Marianne. And lo and behold, when I arrived in Denver airport, I got on the shuttle bus to the hotel, and who was sitting right ahead of me? It was Marianne. And I just was like, wow, like it took 20 hours from Singapore to Colorado. So I was pretty knackered, yet I finally had the courage to say, I flew all the way from Singapore. I'd really love to interview. And she goes, well, why don't we check in and we'll meet up in 2 hours. So within 5 hours of arriving in Denver, I achieved that goal. Well, she obviously has been extremely busy. She ran for the president of the United States. Yet I would like, and I will find a way to get her a copy of the book. And I'd love to reconnect. I think she has got so much wisdom. And that Course in Miracles is something that is living a miraculous life, is noticing the miracles that unfold all around us. Yes. And so she's got that energy that I'd love as a female to get the book to. And then there's a couple here in Canada. One would be Jordan Peterson. I'm doing a series right now of Jordan Peterson's The 12 Rules of Life. And we're having fun doing some discourses about his content that is really helping men and boys communicate more effectively. There's a gentleman who's written Parasitic Mind, Gad Sad, in Montreal that I've reached out to. And those would be two that immediately come to mind. They're both very active online. And we'll see, perhaps they'll come visit us on our show and be interviewed by us.
That would be cool. Get their viewpoints and just see if there's other things that we can learn from them as we go along. That would be very cool. Well,
both of those guys, their careers took off because both of them are professors, and their careers really took off when they got on the Joe Rogan show.
Oh, okay.
And so Jordan Peterson at university here in Toronto, and then Gadsad in Montreal, I believe at McGill. Okay. Yeah, they've been sort of going together in some of their broadcasts, and it'd be good because they're very strong academics. They're very opinionated. I like that, and I think definitely would welcome the opportunity to share a copy of the book. I might do that in the next couple of days. Just send it off to them and see what happens, because that is one approach to reach out to people. I have sent some messages, and it's something that we'll see what happens, because I would like to be part of a movement to assist people, and it's what we're doing with Voice of Men 360, assisting men and boys having conversations, having discourse, learning the skills of communication, because frankly, in the cancel society of online social media, there's a lot of fear.
Yes.
And we're not even allowed in many ways to express ourselves without sort of being smashed down, bullied,
Yeah.
online bullying, cyberbullying. And so that's something that Voice of Men 360 has been quite active. And then I'm also involved in another organization called Global Dialogue Foundation. And we're running a mentoring program right now for 70 teachers in Mumbai. And it's a mentoring program that we're working with them on, again, sharing conversation, dialogue, cross culture, cross barriers to look to understand people as opposed to persecute.
Right.
And so that is something that, again, I'd love to be able to share with people here in Canada, because I am noticing the hostility and the fear and the anger and the violence and the stress is part of why I actually wrote Get 2020 Vision, because when people respond out of fear, they respond out of hate. It's often fear and ignorance, and
Yes.
communication can build those bridges that hopefully we can make our city, our province, our country even more beautiful than it is today.
Definitely. Yeah. Those conversations, it's amazing what they open up, that you find such common things amongst everybody, whether you're here or in Singapore or in India or whatever. It's amazing when you get the chance to have a conversation and open up. We all get a lot of common things. Yeah. So 2 questions for you.
Sure.
So you got your book out there to your 3 people, but now you want to improve your team and add to your team. So in the next 6 months, who would you like to meet or connect with?
Well, that's a great question, Bill. And it's such a great question that I'm really going to encourage you to go and ask more people that question, because it truly gets people thinking outside of the box, and it can help. Like, in fact, a little shift of it is, because I love this question. This is one of the questions that the question that I might ask is, in the next year, name 3 people that you would love to meet. And so I'm just playing with it because it is such a great question. In networking, it's a great question because you honestly don't know them, yet by them telling you, you're going to get to learn a lot about them, and you're getting them to think, and therefore you're creating a connection of sincere curiosity. And by doing that, you become quite unique in most people's world, because most people don't get the conversations that we're currently having.
Right.
Because you don't do that necessarily in your family. You don't do that with your partner. So it really is. I just want to thank you very much, because that's a great question. It's funny because my first response was, I reached out recently and got a response from Dougie Gilmore.
Right on.
Number 93. And I sort of mentioned it to you. Yet after this call, I'll drop him a message and I say, Dougie, you want to come on our show? And he's promoting hockey players now to be speakers at events. He actually, if he saw this or wanted to maybe go outside of Canada, North America, well, guess what? Like, I was part of a team that brought Gordie Howe to Hong Kong in 20 years ago to launch the Hong Kong Hockey League.
That's awesome.
I could connect Dougie to those wonderful guys in Hong Kong who run a lot of hockey in China and Hong Kong. So if you look at people as an opportunity, as a sincere curiosity, it can really do some great things. So I'll say Dougie Gilmore is one, because I think that would be just great for you and I think that would
that's cool.
You, Pink. Who else would I love to connect with this year? Gosh. I am playing in the YouTube arena right now, so I guess I'm not exactly clear, because I've actually hired a coach, and I'm working with a coach right now, Sabi's been doing a great job on,
Mhm.
and you even check out the YouTube right now. We've changed the name Continual Shift with Dave Rogers, and a little bit of the branding, a little bit of the thumbnails, and we're going to work on that. Yet that would be pretty cool, is one or two good influencers who might play with us on the online world of YouTube. It's something that I'd like to explore this year.
Okay, I'm going to throw a spin at you here.
I like spins.
We've been talking about people you've never met before, but what about somebody you want to reconnect with? So you think about, I mean, look how many years it was between you and I, right? And different things like that. So somebody that, who would be one or two that you'd want to reconnect with, and you never know what's going to happen, right? I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because last week I was going to go golfing, and I invited a high school buddy, Glenn and Ian, and we connected. I've reached out to about 5 of the guys last year on Facebook to see if they golf. They all said no, which was fine. So it'd be quite fascinating to reach out. There's a couple of guys that you might know, Kevin Yamada.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Kev, I know him very well. We've golfed quite a few times.
Yeah, so I think if we had a little golf round with Kevin and maybe Don would be a great guy to have a chat with. I haven't chatted with him since we worked at the International Center. And so, if we reached out and connected to a few of these guys, I guess Coffee would be an interesting one. Veccarelli would be another interesting one.
Yeah.
These are guys that we played ice hockey with, and it would be fun, and I think it could be part of this plan for the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, no,
great question, Bill.
The reconnect one I think is fun because if somebody is not totally at that level where they feel comfortable, like say you would or I would, going to meet brand new people, there's your baby step, right? You go and let's say we connect. Well, let's use Ian for example, right? I haven't seen Ian. Well, you connected Ian and I together, right? So there would be a great reconnection for somebody that wants to do, and then whoever's in that group, he could introduce you, or like you've done with me. I've met, we got Dolly, we got Hartmut, Irene, Tracy, all that group. Those are people that I never ever would have met, and I probably wouldn't have made the effort to go and do that. But we reconnected. It seemed like we never left, type of thing, and now I've got this whole new circle. And same, the years slowly coming into my circle. So I think that's a good baby step for people to think about.
I think it's a great idea, folks. And I invite, again, many people have been saying that the last year has been so challenging and they haven't had a chance to connect and to network. And we can use the online as a way to bridge. We would definitely welcome if people are seeing this, and they might even want to have a little virtual meetup. We might consider doing that in the next couple of weeks, and we could invite 10, 15, 20 people and see who shows up and have a virtual trust circle or a reunion. And that might be a cool little initiative that you and I might do, and just see who might show up. I did one of those recently for my Japan team. When I went to Japan, there was about 8 of us that were really close, and I threw out invitations, and 6 of them showed up, and we had great meetup, and people were really grateful. And this was just the start of the COVID, and it was they were very emotional about it, actually. So definitely something to consider, and I thank you for the suggestion.
Cool.
Do you have any last little questions to bring?
Yeah, so we can start to wrap it up here, and I guess if you could just let all the listeners and viewers know what's the best way that they can get a copy of your book, Get 2020 Vision.
Well, if you're around the world, so if it's our friends in Singapore, Malaysia, South Africa, Australia, Amazon's probably the best way. Amazon, Get 2020 Vision, Dave Rogers, and you ought to be able to get a digital download. Right now, I've got 20 hard copies. If you really want one, hit me up with a DM and let me know where you're at. And for the first 5 that reach out, I'd be happy to get you a copy of the book and do it as one of those beautiful pay it forwards if that suits, and something that we would like to encourage people to write. It's one of those things that is a it's a journey of authorship. I did run a program called Authorpreneurship. We helped over 50 people write books and mentored them through the process. If you're really interested in that program, we could put together that, reinstate that for you if that's something you really want to do. It does take about 91 days to really get a good draft out if you're committed to it. The program that we used to run that used to be online was a 1-year program. Yet,
wow.
if you are interested in it, please hit me up with a direct message, a comment, and Bill and I would actually really like to explore the possibilities of making some of these reconnections. So if you're from Malton or Mississauga or played hockey with us, reach out and let's see if we might have a mastermind session, or what we've been using, a trust circle session. It could be for creativity, innovation. It could be for challenging times or dealing with some of the ups and downs of life. But we're definitely happy to explore that.
That would be excellent. So last question for you, Dave.
Sure.
What's the best way, if somebody wants to chat with you, what's the best way for them to connect?
Well, I would say LinkedIn is good these days. So it's Dave Rogers 1111 on LinkedIn. It also is quite good these days on our Facebook, or these days YouTube is getting a lot of the attention. Yet I would say LinkedIn is probably number 1, Facebook is number 2, and then YouTube is number 3.
Awesome. Excellent. Dave, this has been a blast. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to flip around things, and this was great. And I look forward to our session next week.
Well, you did a great job, Bill. Thank you so much, and wishing everybody, please, if you watch today, check us out on YouTube, the channel Continual Shift. Meetup is Canada's startup, and it's been great having a chat with you, Bill. Great job tonight.
Thanks, Dave. Excellent.
Cheers.